The key takeaway is to make sure that you are using human written, authentic content. That's how, at least for the foreseeable future, you're going to continue to win, both in organic search and in AI search. I'm Greg Gifford, and this is SEO in 2026.
Greg, what's your number one SEO tip for 2026?
So my number one SEO tip is to not get distracted by all of the AI content that is out on the web. A lot of people are making the decision to use AI to write all of their content, and AI is just predicting words based off of content that was already out there. And as more AI content floods the web, the AI is trained off of the AI. So it's like copying, for everyone that remembers VCR tapes, copying the same VCR tape over and over again, and the quality continues to get worse. So the way that businesses and marketers need to combat that is real, authentic human experience. And the AI systems and models cannot replicate that. So write your content with humans, skip the stupid informational stuff, share authentic experiences and reasons why humans vibe with your company, and that's how you're going to win in the future.
So where does research then come into it before you create your content? Because obviously you want to be vibing, you want to be off the cuff to a certain degree, showing your personality, showing what really represents your brand, but you also, I guess, want to be doing keyword research and writing content that your audience is looking for. So how does that process work?
You know, it's funny. A lot of people are saying with the rise of all of the AI search models that you don't have to do keyword research anymore because every query is different, but people still think about concepts. So you still have to do the keyword research related to the concept to understand how your potential customers are thinking about the problems that they have. And I think that's the key to it. Everyone tends to forget that as marketers, we're here to help our client or our own company solve the problems that the customers have. And a lot of people have lost track of that. And it's all about let's churn out content for the sake of content. And let's create content just for Google. And now let's create content just for AI. But that's not really what the content is for. The content is for the consumer. It's the person that says, I have this problem, I need a solution, and you're trying to let them know that you offer that solution. So you still have to do that keyword research. You have to figure out how people are thinking about their problems, and then you need to write that amazing, authentic content and make sure that your business is unforgettable.
And will that predictably rank over AI-generated content and Google, or Google and other search engines clever enough to know what is original content?
I mean, Google's always been clever enough to understand what original content is. And there's all kinds of research coming out lately that shows that, you know, I was reading one the other day of a company that just started churning out boatloads of AI generated content, and they saw a lift and they were like, oh my gosh, this works. And then a few months later, they tanked and they ended up worse than they were before they started churning out programmatic content at scale. So it's back to the whole issue of a lot of people out there think more is better. More content means better. More content means I'm going to get results faster. More content means I'm better than my competitors that aren't putting out as much content. But if there's no strategy behind the content, what's the point? You could add 5 pages a day to your site. Why? Just because you want more? Google's never cared about the number of pieces of content on your site. Google has cared about the quality of that content, and that's been true for years. Why would that change now? And people tend to really get distracted by the AI stuff. And for some verticals, AI overviews and AI mode and ChatGPT search and Perplexity and whatever will take away some of that search share. But other verticals, it's not really affecting search as much yet. But people are still jumping to do all of this content at scale because they see, oh, I can not have to pay for this content, or I can get rid of my team of internal writers. But the problem is that content just doesn't perform as well. And it's been proven time and time again. Now, does that mean that it's never going to get there? No, I'm sure the AI models will continue to get better and better and better. And at some point in the future, you'll be able to create content with AI that is just as good as content created by humans, but it's not there yet at all. And I think part of the problem is the general public, and even I think a lot of marketers think that AI is AI because we call it AI, but we call it AI because it's just easier to say AI than LLM because it's a more difficult, thing to pronounce. But AI is not AI. None of it is intelligent and thinking. It's just word prediction. So when it gets to be smarter, I'm sure the content will be better. But for now, it's just not there yet, and it's not going to help.
Well, your tip certainly resonates with me. I do believe that many marketers use AI the wrong way around, i.e., they do their research on AI, they use AI to actually create their initial article, and then they start tweaking it and perhaps humanizing it slightly from there. But in terms of the content that here at Majestic we produce, we've been producing the SEO in series for the last 5 years, and it's been about perhaps doing minimal research for people also ask type phrases on Google to incorporate those sorts of questions
Exactly.
Within the podcast series, but then having a natural question, having a natural conversation around it, and then publishing podcast series, video series, and book around that original content. Is there anything that you would actually go about adding to that sequence to make it even more effective?
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people are using it backwards, and they're starting with using the AI to write the content. And you shouldn't have AI replace the things that you do. You should use it as a tool to make you more efficient at doing the things that you do. That doesn't mean having it do it all for you. Maybe it creates an outline for you, and you can pick and choose the bits that make sense and don't. You can use to proofread. You can use to check facts. There's a lot of pattern identification stuff that it excels at. It's just not there for writing content. There are tons of, go do a Google search. There's tons of offerings out there for AI humanization services where they just basically go in and they remove the M dashes and phrases like delve that humans don't really use. And then they call it a day, but the content still isn't great in the first place. So
yes,
I would caution everyone to back off a bit and really think about the end user and what we're doing for and to the end user with our content. And again, that's the disconnect. A lot of marketers, especially a lot of business owners, they have really migrated their thought process over the years. Before it was, what do we do to help our customers? What do we do to stand out for our customers? And then it became, let's do everything for Google. Let's do it all for Google. All that matters is Google. And if we show up well in Google, our customers will naturally find us. And the businesses that have excelled through the years are the ones that never forgot, we're not doing this for Google. We're doing this for our customers. And that's what's really important.
Another challenge is the quantity of content that is available online nowadays. 10 years ago, there used to be about 200,000 podcasts. Nowadays, there's about 2.8 million podcasts on Apple Podcasts, even more outside of that. So, that just is an example, but obviously it applies across different categories of content out there. So you're a big advocate of being unforgettable. How do you position yourself as being someone who's memorable and unforgettable and doing things differently and really appealing to your target market?
Again, it's about really answering the questions that your customers are asking, creating content around, hey, this is a solution to this potential problem you might be having. I say this, and it sounds like a healthcare thing, but it really applies to all businesses. But it came from working with doctors and plastic surgeons. The concept is that customers shop by symptom. So the example that I use when I speak in conferences or to groups is that a plastic surgeon will create content on his website and use all of the medical terms throughout the site. So there is a procedure, and the one that sticks in my rhinoplasty is like obviously nose job, but the one that sticks in my head, because most people kind of get what rhinoplasty is, but the one that I really remember from a client that we worked with is a procedure called a blepharoplasty. A blepharoplasty is an eyelid lift. So as you age, your eyelids start to droop, and people will tighten that area up with a procedure called a blepharoplasty. And most plastic surgeons just have blepharoplasty all over the page, and they don't ever say eyelid lift or this is for droopy eyelids. So you have to realize the general public has no idea what a blepharoplasty is, but they're looking for, my eyelids are drooping, what can I do? Or how do I fix my droopy eyelids? So that should be the way that you're writing your content. You should be answering those problems and questions about problems that your potential customers or clients are asking, and then offer education, guide them down the path to purchase. Let them know, hey, here's this problem, here's our solution, and here's why our solution is one that you should seriously consider because it's better than the solutions that you will find elsewhere in the market or on market, depending on where you are. And then offering those authentic human experiences, talking about real world solutions for real world problems, and then giving testimonials from real world customers and sharing real world photos and not AI generated crap.
It's one thing creating wonderful content and another thing getting enough eyeballs in front of it, certainly. And a few years ago, there used to be a movement, be everywhere in terms of your content and publish in as many places as possible, perhaps use automation to help you do that. And you can use AI to help you do that nowadays. Which camp do you tend to fall in? Is it be everywhere or focus on one or two platforms that are more likely to resonate with your target audience?
I kind of fall in the middle of that, actually. Instead of being everywhere, you should be where your customers are, because you see this be everywhere movement. And that means I got to go be on Reddit. I got to be on LinkedIn. I got to be on Substack. I got to be on Discord. I've got to be on Quora. I've got to be on my own site. I've got to be on social media. But in your particular vertical, maybe your customers are only looking at Pinterest and Reddit, and that's it. So why would you waste time worrying about Substack and Discord and LinkedIn and other places where your customers aren't actually looking for solutions? So again, you asked earlier, where does the research come in? Part of that research isn't just around the concept or the topic. It's around where your customer base is looking for those solutions. And, Rand was really smart building SparkToro, because SparkToro, not to be all like preaching about a tool, but it's a great tool that helps marketers discover where their audience and where their customers are. And there's other tools out there that do similar things, but I think that's a key part that a lot of people miss, is they either assume, okay, I just need it on my website and people will find it, or they go with I just need to push it out everywhere it can possibly be, because the more places that it is, the better. Well, then even if you're doing it with AI, you're just still wasting a little bit of effort when you could just put it on the 3 or 4 spots where your customers are going to be looking.
I guess one challenge with injecting personality and your own enthusiasm into your content, being personable, is it's not necessarily representative of what you want your brand to be. So how do you know whether or not what you're likely to do or what your team is likely to do is to produce content that is appropriate for your brand? And how do you keep things consistent so that your customers who are consuming your content can experience a similar style on a consistent basis?
Yeah, that's a great question. The most important thing is to have some sort of brand guideline document where this is what our brand's voice will be everywhere, in social posts, in ads, in videos and podcasts if you do those, on your site, in your content. What is that brand voice? What is that brand personality? And make sure you do a lot of research and you really nail down all the particulars and make that doc public so that everyone that is creating content can see it, and maybe even train your team on what that brand voice is, so it is that consistent voice. And it doesn't have to be, everything is goofy and crazy, because that doesn't fit with some brands. An IT company is going to need something very specific that is different than the bar or restaurant that's up the street, that will have a much more playful brand. I've got a buddy that got a job at a company that does data annotation for AI systems. So basically, if you're doing AI, you need data. I don't even understand all of it because it's super nerdy, but you basically need data annotation. Think if you're creating an AI system for a self-driving car, then the cameras will detect things, and those things need to be annotated in the system so that you can train the model correctly and make sure that it's detecting the right things. And apparently this is a pretty common issue and need for AI companies. So their brand voice would need to be extremely technical and very specific about the needs of this really technical niche thing that they do versus a restaurant or a bar or, maybe even a car dealership could be a lot more fun and playful in their company brand voice than someone that by need has to be very technical. And that brand voice document is really going to help guide everyone and keep things consistent so that you don't have, Jimmy over here on the social media team writing these goofy posts that don't fit with the brand voice.
Is there a number one content surfacing opportunity in 2026? Like, for instance, maybe ChatGPT, or does it just depend on the type of business that you happen to operate in and where your audience is?
I think it depends. I think everyone is starting to see some referral traffic from ChatGPT, and that's the main one that's got more adoption than anyone else. And there's still a lot of research that shows that, at most it's 3 to 5% of the search volume that happens on Google. We've always for years said, hey, look, everybody just pays attention to Google, but there is an audience over on Bing. So if you're running paid ads, you should put a portion of your budget on Bing because there's less competition. Your money goes further. Same sort of stuff with ChatGPT. Like, it's a small audience. It's growing and it will grow and continue to grow. But right now it's a small audience. You should still worry about it. The problem is nobody really knows how to get into ChatGPT. Sure, there's a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon and saying, I've got it figured out. You do this, this, and this. But nobody really knows. And the models change constantly anyway. So something that works today isn't guaranteed to work next week. So I get really spun up with all of the people on LinkedIn and social saying, we've cracked the code and we can get you visible in ChatGPT, because everyone searches differently. Every query is different. It's these incredibly long tail queries. I mean, Google has said for years that every single day, 20% of the queries entered into Google have never been entered into Google before. That number's got to be exponentially higher for ChatGPT and the AI mode questions that are being asked to search, because it's these long, very specific, very detailed questions that, of course, that's the first time anyone has asked that. So how are you going to do rank tracking to know that you're showing up in ChatGPT when you're only tracking one specific query that you decided to track? It just doesn't work that way. So is there something specific you can do? Yeah. Again, it's creating awesome content, being visible, being unforgettable, making sure that if there's a lot of competition, everyone knows about your brand, making sure that everyone is talking about your brand, because now those mentions on other websites are becoming more and more important, because that's what the AI models are picking up on, more so than just the content on your site and the links pointed to that content. Does that mean that's the end all be all goal of, like, oh, just get mentioned on other sites and you're going to win? Obviously not. It's more complex than that. But right now, things are changing so quickly. Like, let's not put all our eggs in one basket. There are so many companies. There's a major one in automotive. All these people are making these decisions to do things with AI that they don't really understand how AI works, and it's not the right decision, and they're making bad decisions for the future. So many companies out there are going all in on AI. Look on LinkedIn, you see all these SEOs being laid off and digital marketers being laid off and writers and editors being laid off, because now people could do it with ChatGPT, but they really can't. So realize that right now, still, the lion's share of what's coming to you is coming from Google, especially now that people have proven that ChatGPT is looking at Google search results. So is it important? Sure. Are we losing traffic to AI? Sure. But the number of people that are looking to buy your product or service has not changed. The only thing that's changed is the way that they're finding you. And we've all trained everyone out there to look at organic traffic and organic conversions as the top metrics for SEO success. That's no longer the case. We're going to have a lot of zero-click search. We're going to have a lot of people that just show up to buy that never even saw your website directly because it was surfaced in some AI interface, or they saw it on some other site and just decided to come buy from you. And that's okay. You're still going to make those sales. you're just not going to be able to track everything from soup to nuts in Google Analytics anymore.
Greg, what's the key takeaway from the tip you shared today?
The key takeaway is to make sure that you are using human-written, authentic content. That's how, at least for the foreseeable future, you're going to continue to win, both in organic search and in AI search.
Greg Gifford is Chief Operating Officer at Search Lab Digital. Find out more over at searchlabdigital.com. Greg, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2026.
Thanks for having me.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2026, the book, over at seoin2026.com.